So you have a hobby, but you want to turn it into a side hustle, or you want to turn it into a stream of income. You have this skill, you have this interest, you have something that you're good at, and you would like to transition that over into something that brings in just a little bit of income for you, for your family, so that maybe you're not living paycheck to paycheck, or maybe you want to save up for your kids' college, you want to pay down debt, whatever the case is. But how do you get there? How do you go from, hey, I like to do this, to, hey, I like to do this and I'm making some money in the process? Well, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk through the second half of what that process looks like, how you can go from hobby to a stream of income to support you, support your family, support your dreams, support all the things that you're wanting to do while you're still serving in ministry, you're still doing the things that God has called you to do, and still serving your community and your congregation. So let's get started. So the big question is this: how do pastors like us, who remain focused on the mission of Jesus and serving our communities without being distracted by everything in the world around us, how do we increase our effectiveness while living a lifestyle that doesn't compromise our health, our families, or our personal relationships with Jesus? That's the question this podcast is going to answer. I'm Dr. Brandon Party Cooper, and welcome to the Ministry Hackers Podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Ministry Hackers Podcast. I hope you are doing wonderfully wherever you are and whatever it is you're doing. It's such a wonderful day here in Virginia Beach. It's a great fall day. Excited. It's November. We're out of October. We're past all the Halloween and all the candy. Well, the candy is still here, but we're past collecting it. And now we're moving into pumpkin pie season and turkey season and all the wonderful things of Thanksgiving, not to mention the Christmas is right around the corner, and Christmas music, at least for me, has started. And so excited for this year, for this season, and excited to bring in my good friend and the illustrious pastor from the north, Pastor Matt Wasbinski. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, it was funny when I heard you talking and you're like, it's time to go into pumpkin pie and all that. I'm like, whatever. You don't do any of that. You have fully moved on to Christmas.
Now, let me clarify. I do love the Thanksgiving season, and I've been putting off buying that big giant $6 pumpkin pie at Sam's Club for a few weeks now. And so I'm looking forward to it. I sprinkle in some Christmas along the way.
Is your tree up yet? That's the big question.
No, the rule is the tree can't come up before November 1st. And honestly, since we've had kids and all of that, we really have kind of pushed Christmas decorating till after Thanksgiving. So
okay, all right, because I was that would be a good wager, is like if your tree was up this morning. And so I was curious because once Halloween, I know it's like pulling teeth to keep you out of Christmas until even after Halloween. So
yeah, no, rewind about 8 years ago, and yes, it would have been. But yeah, no. Now that we have kids, and we kind of are preserving each little holiday. Plus, we have birthdays. My son and I, our middle son Isaiah, myself, we have the same birthday on the 20th, and so we kind of push a lot of the decorating and all that stuff till after Thanksgiving. Really, the weekend of Thanksgiving, Christmas is full on. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. How about you? Do you guys have any decorating rules when it comes to?
No, we normally wait until after Thanksgiving, but that's about it. So now, with our daughter being born on December 28th, it's kind of shifted some stuff because we have to end Christmas when Christmas is done, because then we get immediately into birthday, because we want to make sure we're not trying to combine those two as much as possible, which is kind of giving us a little bit more flexibility on starting earlier, because we know okay, day after Christmas, so
yeah. Nice. Yeah. So our first son, our oldest, Aiden, his is the 31st, same thing. So it's like Christmas, yay, Christmas, and then shut it down. So get ready for the new year, and, his birthday. So yeah, no, we get that. We definitely get that. So, all right. So we are continuing a conversation that we started in the last episode that we were together. We're talking about creating a stream of income, creating a side hustle from our hobby. You and I have both done that. We've created, you are more in the entertainment space. I'm more in the coaching consulting space. So in case somebody is just jumping into this episode and hasn't listened to the first one, give a rundown real quick of what it is you do on your end.
So I buy and sell Funko Pops. Typically, my main thing that I do is I buy collections. I normally buy them about 50% value, but I take everything. So someone might be selling like their entire thing, and then I take them at 50%, and I take the valuable ones and the really cheap ones, and just bundle them all together. And then through eBay and whatnot, and all these other different stores online, I then turn around and I sell them, and I also make content as far as unboxing videos and just fun TikTok trends and YouTube videos that have to do with Funko Pop.
Nice, cool. And then obviously on my end, I do leadership consulting and church consulting. I help pastors and leaders develop their own leadership and help them to navigate some of the changes and challenges that come with ministry. And so, and then our focus obviously is to help pastors live their dream life in ministry and all the systems and steps in place to do that. So, and yeah, so for you and I, we've kind of navigated through the, you know, getting it off the ground and taking it something from an interest. So for you, it was Funko Pops. For me, it was kind of this long interest in leadership and development and serving pastors and my calling, you know, way back in Bible college. And so, and we've moved into, okay, we, you know, we're pastors, we serve in ministry, but now we also do this. And so in the last episode, we talked about kind of the first three stages of going from hobby to an income stream. And we started with deciding on what your niche is, who, you know, what area you're wanting to be in. For you, it wasn't just Funko Pops, right? Remind me, what was it that you really kind of dove into beyond just
So yeah, it was basically just nerd culture in general. It's funny because now, like, that used to be like a negative term, like where someone was a nerd. But now, like, with the popularity of Marvel and Star Wars and just, you know, how popular culture is kind of more embraced nerd culture, if you will, it's become like a big, huge mainstream kind of thing. And so,
Okay, good. Yeah, and so and then for me it's more, it's not just leaders, it's more pastors, and not just pastors, but pastors who are maybe experiencing burnout, or they're experiencing just high anxiety, and they're really wanting to move into this space where they're having more time with their family and their friends and all of that. So so that's, you know, what is your niche? That's decide on the niche. Second step is discovering the pains and the problems. And so looking at your niche and saying, okay, what pains and problems are out there? What exists? Where can I fit in? And how can I serve that niche? And so discovering what those pains and problems are. And then the third step, and this is where we left off in our last episode, is to create content focused on those pains and problems. Creating content that is engaging, creating content that is drawing people in. And the one point that you made that's very important is creating content that serves and not just sells. Selling is a part of having a business, is part of having a side income. There is a built-in piece for selling. But if all of our content is focused on just selling, then we can't really create something that people want to be a part of. We become a commodity, and then it's more like, you know, who's the cheapest out there, which really isn't going to help us, because, you know, for us, if we're creating a side income in little spaces, in little niches, if we are trying to outsell everybody at the bottom and be the lowest price, that's just not going to bring in enough income for us, and it's going to be more work than it's worth. And so for us, it's about adding value. It's about giving content and really serving the niche that we're into. So that's where we are. So we want to move on into step 4. So we've created content. Hopefully you've at least put some thought and some energy into creating content since our last episode. So in this one, in this step, what we want to do now is we want to start building an audience. Building an audience. Now, your content is designed for that. So whether you chose a blog with articles, or whether you choose YouTube videos, or whatever you have chosen to get eyeballs to whatever your content is, we're wanting to move them onto an audience, create an audience. Because the reality is if you just have YouTube subscribers, or you just have people who have, you know, who are following through an RSS feed or whatever, if they're following your blog, if those are fans, those are people that are saying, hey, I like what you're doing. But it's not really an audience, because you can't get in touch with them. You can't reach out to them. You can't connect with them unless you put out another piece of content and they get in the chat box or whatever the case is. If they don't step into some sort of engagement with you on their end, then they're really just a fan. And so what we want to do is we want to build an audience. And so we want to move them into, ideally would be an email list of some sort. So you're moving them onto a list of people, an opt-in of some kind, where they're saying, hey, I love your content. I love what you're doing. I want to be a part of what you're doing. I want to, you know, dive in and be a part. And so that's what we want to do. We want to move people from fans, where they're watching our content, into an audience where we can at least know somewhat of who they are, understand a little bit about them, and we can connect with them, even if everything shuts down. So even if YouTube shuts down tomorrow, you have this email list where you can say, hey, I don't know what happened to YouTube, but here's the next, for you, Matt, here's the next unboxing video. Or for me, here's the next episode in the podcast. Because YouTube has disappeared, if you just have fans, then you have lost all of your fans, and you're back to square one, and you have nothing to go on. So for you, Matt, explain kind of how you have gone from fans into building some sort of an audience.
Well, I think that that diversifying, I think, is important. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but what is, like you said, you don't want to be completely reliant on the one source of things.
Yes.
So if someone is just liking you on Facebook, do they know that you have an Instagram too? Do they know that you have a TikTok? Do they know, know what I mean? Because you want as many feelers kind of out there to where, if one thing shuts down, or if one thing doesn't work, or, terms and conditions change and now suddenly you can't be, promoting or selling on certain things anymore. Then that makes it tough. Or if they decide that that's not where they want to be anymore, but that's their only connection to you, then you just kind of drift off. And so, like you said, having some sort of, whether it's you have a connection to them, whether, like you said, the email list is great because then you have some of their information, so then you can reach out to them. Right. But then also making sure that they have plenty of access points to you and are aware of that it's not like, oh, well, these are my YouTube people and these are my Facebook people, but you want as much of that intermingling as you possibly can.
Yeah. Well, and this is too, not only is building an audience about capturing that information, which is huge, is important, but it's also about understanding them, understanding who your audience really is. Because I don't know how it is for you, Matt, but for me, I kind of have an idea, especially when I go back when we first started the podcast. I had an idea of who I was wanting to reach out to, who I was wanting to serve, but we don't really know. We really have no idea if we just have fans who have hit the like button or who have subscribed to us. We just don't know them. We don't know anything about them. But when we transition into some sort of audience where, we've diversified our channels and we have gotten interaction, we've gotten comments, and we've connected with them, or we have their emails and we can email them back and forth, then we can start to understand, okay, this really is who my audience is. This is who is really getting my content. This is really who's interested in my products and services. This is my person or my people. And when we do that, when we have better understanding of who they are, then we serve them better. And we know this as pastors. I mean, even if you have a congregation of 100 people, you have a lot of diversity in what all those 100 people are really needing and looking for. And the more we get to know each individual and more we get to know different groups within the church, we have an understanding of, oh, maybe we should do a ministry like this, or maybe we should tweak something like that so it's more engaging for them. We have a young adults ministry that's, really geared towards young professionals, but it's filled with a bunch of college kids. So let's tweak that more for college kids and young professionals, and we're a lot more effective in what we do. Well, in the side income or the side hustle idea, it's the same thing. The more we understand our audience, the more we can move them from fans to an audience, the more we understand what they need, what they're looking for, and how we can serve them better. So, okay, so now that we have built an audience, the next thing is to go deeper, and this is kind of what I was just touching on, is serving their pains and problems. Now, in step 2, we discovered pains and problems. And this is based on our research. It's based on our experience in the niche. For you, Matt, you kind of understood in the Funko Pop world and the nerd culture, you understood kind of what the pains and problems were. Mm-hmm. But when you really kind of started out, you had maybe educated guesses and maybe some good idea because you were a part of that culture. But at this point, serving pains and problems, you're connecting with people, you're talking to your audience, you're getting an understanding. So are there pains and problems in your niche that kind of came out after you started serving, where you were like, oh, I didn't really think about that, or it's different than what I thought it was?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a big thing for me is there's so many subcultures in there
Oh, that's true.
that I went in with the idea of I like this, and so other people like this, and so I want to market to people who are like me, who also might like this. And then quickly realizing that when I make that switch from collector to vendor, that it's not about, well, I like Disney and I like
Right.
Star Wars, but like there's a lot of anime that I was completely ignorant about, or that shop owners were ignorant about. We talked about this in the last episode, where Funko is often a sidewall thing,
Right.
where you go into a video game store or a trading card store, and then they have stuff, but there's often these subcultures where they're like, yeah, I have that, but they don't know characters, they don't know
Right.
release dates, they don't know anything like that. And so really having to dive into, okay, when are things getting released? A lot of people don't even know if there is a Funko Pop. Like, so I have a lot of people who come to me and say, hey, either maybe my boyfriend or my girlfriend or I like this show or this anime or this
Okay.
character, but don't know that there's a line or if there is or anything like that. And so, figuring out and building up my knowledge of that information has made me very valuable, because then someone can come to me and say, hey, I like the movie Wall-E. Is there any? And I can say, yeah, there's the original collection, and they actually just had a new line last year. And so the original collection is more rare and more valuable. But if you're just looking for something to throw, on your nightstand or whatever, then this is probably the better bet. Where if they were to go into, a comic book store, they'd be like, I don't know, like I know superheroes and this.
Right.
And so that was one of definitely the pains and problems that, after I started selling, I had to kind of get out of my own bubble a little bit and say, okay, what are people looking for? And then gain a knowledge of the product a bit more.
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, I like Christmas stories, so if there's an open line for that, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and even for me, I've been in ministry 20 years, 20 plus years at this point. And when we started this 4 years ago now, when we kind of got into the space and started serving pastors, I mean, I had somewhat of an idea of what the issues were and what pastors were needing, but I've learned so much. Because when you're in ministry, like you said, you understand your pains and problems. You understand the struggles that you're having. But when you step out of that and you start engaging with other pastors, and one of the things that I've realized is we have a lot of, this is what I've learned over the last couple of years. We have a lot of young pastors, and I'm talking mid to late 20s, stepping into lead pastor roles that are serving churches of 500, 600, 800 plus. And they're incredibly talented and they're incredibly gifted and well trained and well prepared for the position. But the reality is they just don't have the years of experience under their belt to really navigate some of the issues they're running into. And I think, one of the things that's contributing to that is, we have a lot of baby boomer pastors who are retiring and handing the reins over sooner than, some of our younger pastors are ready for. And not that they're not doing a great job, they're doing a great job, but they're in their own moments and conversations that I'm having with them, they're saying, I mean, things are going great at the church, but I don't know what to do with this, or I don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
navigate that, or there's this problem that I know is coming. I have no idea even where to begin with that. And so it's just
Yeah.
helped me get a better understanding of what those pains and problems are, which is partially what has led to this whole dream life and ministry idea that, instead of like, hey, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm on the verge of burnout. So, I need to figure out what to do, or I need to step out of ministry. Before we even get to that point, how about we start building ministries where, we have engaging experiences, where we have strong built teams, where we as pastors are doing the things that only we can do, and we're handing things off. That all came from this realization that, we need to develop pastors early on how to do those things instead of fix the problem on the back end. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that I not being tied to the pains and problems you discovered, because like you said, a lot of the times those are pains and problems that we perceive because of our own perspective. Now we're at a point where we have an audience and we're finding pains and problems we didn't anticipate, and we're having to step out of our own comfort zone and serve those in ways that maybe we
Yeah.
weren't prepared for before. Okay,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
now that we have pains and problems identified and we're serving them, now it's time to build a value ladder. And what a value ladder is, just think of like a funnel, just an upside down triangle. And what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to move people from, like we said, you have fans, you have people who are watching your content, reading your content, whatever. They're fans. They're not really in your funnel yet because you don't really know who they are. So you want to move them into this funnel of moving them from your free content to maybe buying a one-off product, to then becoming more of your audience, that they're really loyal to you. Even for you, Matt, you have people who are loyal to you just because of the way you've served them. You've kind of moved them through
Mhm.
your funnel, and so, or through your value ladder. And so thinking about those steps, for me, it's we have articles, we have podcasts, we have lots of free tools on the website. And so that's kind of the front end, the top end of the funnel, the top end of the value ladder is just free resources helping pastors, do the things they need to do. But then, you move down there. We have courses, and then we have the cohort, the Dream Life and Ministry cohort, and then, one-on-one coaching. And I would love to get to a point where we do a conference of some sort. But that's what a value ladder looks like. It's the experience that your audience is going to go through as they engage with you and your products and services, moving deeper and deeper into who you are and your brand and all of that. So Matt, can you just kind of walk through a little bit of an idea of what your value ladder looks like on your end?
So our value ladder is a little bit different. Obviously, there are Funko Pops that are cheap, super cheap, that like maybe will sell for $5. Versus you talk that you like a Christmas story. They do have those. They are very rare, and they cost about like $120.
Oh man, I would love
Um,
that as a Christmas gift, Matt.
and okay, I'll keep my eye out. But so obviously, it's very rare that you get someone who just sees you for the first time, whether it's a Facebook ad or they just happen across your whatnot stream, and they're willing to purchase a $100 $200 Funko Pop from you,
Right.
because it's a roll of the dice. Probably same with you. Like there's someone who it's very rare that you probably get someone who wants to be coached by you that just met you that day.
Right.
And
Well, and the main
so,
reason is because of trust, right? They're not going to buy it from you
exactly,
because they're just not sure they can trust you. Yeah.
exactly, for sure. And so the value ladder for us is almost as it goes financially and that trust size. But yeah, so with our value ladder, maybe we start off something small. Maybe we do a giveaway, or maybe it's just being okay with those $5 $10 Funko Pops. And then once they see like we package well, that we are, kind of in that same nerd culture that they're in, that they enjoy our other content, then they're more willing to kind of move up. And then when it comes to that birthday or Christmas, then they're a little bit more excited and they can come to us for maybe they're called grails. So like that thing that might cost $50
Mm-hmm.
plus, they're more willing to come to us because they know, okay, they're going to take care of it. They're a good person. It's not
Right.
just going to be like some store that has it on some back shelf or some warehouse somewhere. So if we can get kind of engaged with those smaller ones, then it leads to the bigger ones.
Right. Well, and I think again that goes back to what we've talked about in the last episode as well as this one, just about how the goal is not to sell. I mean, yes,
Hmm.
we're trying to create an income stream on the side, so we want to sell, but the goal can't be that. The goal
Hmm.
has to be, and I think you're essentially saying it. It has to be about building trust. And
Yes.
so it's okay. I know that it's easy to say, well, I want to sell this thing at the highest amount I can to get the most amount of money. But the reality is when we do that, then we kind of violate the trust level, with especially those new people coming into our world. And so, having those, giveaways, or having, things priced at a point where people can reach them and try you out and see if they can trust you, is probably more valuable than that high dollar whatever product or service you're selling. It's more about, can I move you to the next step? Can I move you from the free content to buying this, you know, low price point product or service? And so, because again, it's you're building, especially now. I think, I don't know if it's post COVID or if it's just naturally where we're going, but I just think the marketing is getting to be so much, and we're inundated with it so much, and we're so detached from people, of an organization, that we just don't know, like, can we trust you? And I
Yeah.
don't you, but I get tons of things in my email, tons of things on my Facebook trying to sell me this, that, and the other. I'm like, I don't know you at all. Like, I don't.
Hmm.
Are you just going to take my money and give me this, crappy course that I don't really want,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's all about, are we building trust? And that has to be the focus, not selling things, but focus on building that trust and moving them through the value ladder.
Well, and people can smell it from a mile away too.
Yeah, they
Like I
really can.
was, well, and I was at a Halloween thing the other day, and a friend was talking about a mutual acquaintance that we had who is a fitness coach, and who messaged him and said like, "Hey, how you doing? Blah blah blah." But like, I saw that you saw my Facebook story, and just wondering how you're doing with all that. And it was like, it felt immediately like I'm being sold to. And so people like can get that. And so while you want to be strategic about it, like you also like, once again, it's about building that trust almost more so than like that's a natural progression that will happen.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Okay, so that's step 6. Now, we've built a value ladder. We have an audience. We've serving their pains and problems. We're moving them through building trust. The last thing that we want to do, the final step, is to nurture that audience into raving fans. Now, what this does, this step is really moving away from I'm doing this thing and I'm just providing a service or a product. And we've kind of touched on it a little bit with building an audience, but this is even the next step beyond that. This is
Mhm.
building a culture of people who love to engage with your content, who know you, who've been watching your content long enough that they know your quirks and they know your little idiosyncrasies, and they know, when you do this, this is, really what you're getting at. Like, they get that. They even, if you're sharing that on your content, they know something about your family or about your background or whatever. This is creating raving fans is they're not bought into your product or service. They're not even bought into your brand. They're bought into you. And they're coming back because they
Mhm.
like you. They want to be a part of what you're doing. Maybe they don't buy everything, but they're buying most things simply because it's you and they trust you and they like you. And so step 7 is really, how do you nurture an audience who's purchasing into a culture and a community of raving fans who are going to defend you when you get haters on YouTube, or you get somebody jumping on your social media and saying, "Oh, you're just whatever," and they're jumping to your defense, and you're just sitting back like, "I'm out. I'm not going to be a part of this
Mhm.
because my audience, my raving fans, are going to take care of all this for me."
Yeah.
Nurture. You want to serve. You want to build that audience into raving fans.
Yeah. And one of the people who immediately jumped to mind is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mr. Beast. Like he's like the number one guy on YouTube. And he does a bunch of videos where like he'll do these crazy challenges, like think basically like last person to take their hand off a car wins the
All
car,
right.
like
Yeah.
those sort of things. And he recently opened up a burger joint that was like this mobile burger joint sort of thing. And like they were selling out all over the place because of things like this.
Right.
Like jumping from funny YouTube videos to a restaurant is a like completely sideways move.
Yeah.
But people liked him so much, it almost didn't even matter if like the food turned out to be good. But it didn't even matter if the food was good because like people were those raving fans. So I think that this, you hit it on the head. People like you, because when something like COVID happens or something that like is a drastic change or switch, or you're launching this brand new initiative, that people don't even need to really like the thing, but they like you.
Right.
And so like for me, for example, Funko Pops. Let's say I wanted, like, we're starting to dip our toe into mystery boxes where it's like, hey, we're giving away 100 of these, maybe 5 of them have grails that are over $100, and then the rest are kind of just like regular pops. You pay $20 and then good luck, kind of a thing.
Right.
Now if people are just coming to me because of the price point or because they want a specific Funko Pop, then that's not going to interest them. But if they like me and they like kind of like, oh, the excitement, and they want to be a part of what's going on, then
Right.
that's going to increase that. And so having those raving fans is important because then it allows you a little bit more even flexibility with
Right.
what you're doing and where you feel like God is even calling you, and if you have to make adjustments because people are following you, not necessarily the exact thing that you're doing.
Right. Well, and I think the mystery box is a great example, because here's the thing. You can do mystery boxes and you can do them badly. People can get a mystery box and be really disappointed with what they get because You're just kind of throwing a bunch of junk into a box, and that's what they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the same time, if you're giving, like, it's a mystery box, and so you got to kind of be strategic about what you're putting in it. But if they're opening that box, the experience is wonderful, and then they're super happy with what they're getting. Maybe not, it's not what they're looking for, like they weren't looking for this specific Funko Pop,
Mm-hmm.
but they recognize, like, you're giving them good pops in the
Yeah.
box. If they recognize that, then what's going to happen is they then turn around and they talk about, man, this was so good, so great. Mystery box was so cool. I got all these cool ones. Da 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 da. That's just increasing trust. It's increasing excitement, and people are seeing that, like, oh, I can get a mystery box, and even though it may not, like, I mean, obviously you don't know what's in it, so you don't know what you're going to get, but you're not going to be
Yeah.
disappointed with the quality. And I think that
Exactly.
it's a great example of that's how you create raving fans. You're not selling just a product; you're creating an experience, and it's an experience that's high quality. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
man, that's such a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so those are the kind of the 7 steps. So let me just run through them again. Step 1, decide on your niche. Step 2, discover pains and problems. Step 3, create content. Step 4, build an audience. Step 5, serve the pains and problems that maybe you didn't anticipate. Step 6, build a value ladder. And step 7, nurture raving fans. Now, again, this is all with the idea of moving a hobby or a skill or whatever into a side income, into an income stream that's supporting you, supporting your family, making it possible to do the things that maybe you can't do on a pastoral salary, which is fine. Like, I think that our calling into ministry should not be based on how much we're getting paid. However, the reality of life is that we have to get paid enough to support our family, and so creating a side hustle, creating another stream of income, uh, can be a huge supplement to that, to where we don't have to worry how much we're getting paid by our ministry position, because we have income streams of income on the side that help support that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that as you follow these 7 steps, as you go from, from, hey, I have this hobby, to I have raving fans, you're going to be amazed not only by the income that comes in. That's great. But you're going to be amazed by the community that you build. And at the same time, you're going to be amazed at how God uses that thing to make a greater impact in the lives of the people that are in your income stream world. So for you, Matt, your Funko Pop world, you're going to be amazed at how God uses what may be considered a non-ministry thing to really make a huge impact for His kingdom. And I think it's all about
Mm-hmm.
obedience. Is God calling you into this space? Is God calling you to do this? And if He is, these 7 steps are going to help you get there. It's going to cut down your learning curve. It's going to cut down the time it takes. I know for me, especially the first 2 years, man, I was just kind of floundering around trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. And once I kind of figured out these were the steps that I needed to take, things have been moving a lot quicker and a lot more effectively, and I'm able to serve a lot better. And so following these 7 steps will get you where you're wanting to be. So, any last thoughts, Matt?
No, I mean, I think that these are really good steps, and kind of make sure that as you're going through, like, sometimes it's kind of a little bit of a back and forth. I think sometimes we think, okay, we have raving fans, but then now how are you expanding? How are you growing? How are you going back to number one
Yeah,
and saying, okay, like, how can I expand? And maybe there's a niche that, like, I'm not hitting or I could be also doing, and
yeah,
then kind of starting that whole process over again. And so not just being comfortable and I've arrived now that I have people who are interested, but then using that almost as collateral to then jump into the next revenue stream that you could possibly have.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the steps are definitely repeatable, and it helps you to scale from where you are to the next thing. So yeah, that's a great point. So, all right, great episode. I'm glad that we did this. I've been excited about doing these 2 episodes, and so I'm glad it's finally out there and in the hands of all of our people in the ministry hackers world. I'm glad it's almost Christmas. I'm sorry. I'm glad it's going to be Thanksgiving and then Christmas.
There it is. There it is.
I'm glad that I can listen to my Christmas music without a ton of scrutiny and backlash and all that stuff. My kids
Just
are
a little.
not
A little.
super excited. They're like, Dad, it's not even, I know, whatever. We're going to listen to it anyway. So, all right. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you enjoy this season, however you're celebrating it. Whether you're all in on Thanksgiving or you're like me and you're all in on Christmas. Either way, it's a great season. Have fun. Enjoy it. Take time. Make sure that you pull away. Make sure you spend time with those you love. And we'll see you in the next episode.